ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, has risen dramatically. 1 in 9 children has been diagnosed with it. 1 in 5 boys, and more than 70% of those have been prescribed drugs. So what explains this increase? Well, one doctor is now making the shocking claim that it could be in part because of changes in educational policy. Could schools be overdiagnosing students to arrive at better test scores? Joining us now is co-author of the ADHD Explosion and professor at UC Berkeley, Dr. Richard Scheffler. Doctor, thanks a lot for coming on this morning.
Good morning.
So basically, the incredible rise in diagnoses, 1 in 5 American boys getting the ADHD diagnosis, is that real? I mean, do 1 in 5 boys really have ADHD, or is there another reason for those diagnoses?
Well, ADHD is a real thing, there's no doubt. But there is no blood test, there is no x-rays, and so measuring it has a degree of judgment. The data that you're describing is data from CDC, where they surveyed 100,000 families with a random phone dial and asked if their child had ever been diagnosed with ADHD. And that's the reported numbers that we discuss in our book, and that's why we call the book the ADHD Explosion.
Well, it's
remarkable.
remarkable.
Of increase of
So you described the role that schools played, education policy plays in this increase in ADHD. How does that work?
Well, Dr. Henshaw and I, in trying to understand the rates of increase and the explosion you talked about, looked into a number of really different reasons why this might happen. And the one that jumped out in explaining most of the change and the variation, though there are other factors as well, was education policy. In the 1990s, we found that the schools in the United States changed their philosophy and moved more to rewarding schools, budgets, and teachers and principals for performance in the schools, graduation rates, test rates, and
yes.
also, and so the real push for performance. And then when President Bush added the No Child Left Behind policy, this also encouraged other states to also push for academic performance.
So basically you're saying this is an unintended consequence. Schools needed obedient children, so give the kids drugs and they obey and get higher test scores. Is that what you're saying?
Not exactly obedient children, but it gives the child who is properly diagnosed and the child has ADHD can get the medication that he or she might need, and also behavioral therapy, will do better in school, the belief was, in graduation rates and test scores.
Right.
But also, of course, you're right, particularly for boys who are hyperactive, this would make the school, make the classroom somewhat more relaxed for everybody else in it.
Doctor, I wish we had more time to get into the effect on children's brains of these drugs that are being prescribed, but maybe you can come back. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for your book, which I plan to read. Dr. Richard Scheffler joining us from Berkeley.
Thank you.